Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Hope you guys are having a great day. We're going to be working on my vehicle today. It's a 1997 Dodge Ram 2500. It has a Cummins in it. I absolutely love the vehicle. The engine's amazing and it's super reliable. But with any Dodge and Chrysler product, I'm sure a lot of people might know, even with the Dodge Ram, they tend to rust a lot, and we're going to be working on a lot of rust today. I'm going to be removing some weird chrome panels that have a really thick, heavy 3M adhesive on the panels. Some of the tools I'm going to be using today is going to be some channel locks. You might need some pliers or a channel lock. You can also use a paint scraper. I'm going to be using a benzomatic, I guess, torch mask or a respirator. I'm going to be using a drill. And then also I'm going to be using this 3M eraser wheel. I'm going to see how this works today. It's going to be, it's kind of expensive, but it's going to be a learning experience for all of us. Well, without further ado, let's get into fixing it. Alright folks, so this is the panel that I'm talking about. It goes around my whole entire vehicle. There's adhesive behind this, so we're going to be removing that and pulling this weird whole chrome thing off. This technique can also work for any sort of trim pieces that you want to get rid of or any sort of badges that you might not want on your vehicle. What has started to happen was that there's been rock chips that kind of collect up on these panels or any sort of debris, and with all the salt brine that they spread here in the Midwest or in any other salty states, you get huge amounts of rust. And now because it's a Dodge, it's going to be rusting out, but any vehicle can rust for that matter of fact. I have a patch panel for this, so we are going to be fixing a lot of rust. I mean, as you can kind of see, my rocker panel is completely gone, so we're going to be fixing that as well. This is exactly why I wanted to do this. So I'm removing the panel, and you can see this weird adhesive here, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. Now, this doesn't have to just be on a vehicle that has the weird chrome panels that I'm talking about, but any sort of vehicle that might have trim and you're in like any state that's sort of salt brines their roads ridiculously like I'm in, this might happen. So this is a lot more rust than I had anticipated, but you can even see like there's like little white flecks and stuff in here. That's salt. There's just salt and water collecting up in here and debris, and it'll rust out your vehicle. And yeah, I'm just gonna try to remove this rubber adhesive now. Also, it's worth noting I did the passenger side as well, and as you can see there's some rust right here. Alright everyone, I've pretty much removed all of the adhesive from the side of my vehicle now. Man, the heat gun and this paint scraper was probably the best way to do that. However, it just took a very long time, but I got it done. It was okay. Anyways, I removed a huge amount of weird silicone adhesive stuff, and it's just caked on the vehicle. So with that being said, I hit it with some purple power because Wally World has some great stuff for super cheap, and yeah, we're gonna get back to removing a lot of this grease. Okay everyone, it's been taking me a good amount of time. I got dark here. It gets dark here at like 3 o'clock, which is a little bit crazy, but I'm just making sure I take my good time on the adhesive. So I'm gonna have to catch you guys with a little bit more daylight. Alrighty folks, it's another day and I'm still removing this adhesive here, but I wanted to take a quick moment to kind of show you guys some progress here. Now, Working on this adhesive, I got rid of that weird gray adhesive that you guys probably saw. I'm trying to remove this, and now, as you can see, like, I've tried rubbing alcohol, I've tried stainless steel remover, I've tried turpentine, and like I've tried also melting this stuff. And I've also tried using like a Scotch pad, and then I'd have to say like the best solution actually was the eraser wheel. So the eraser wheel has been working really great for somewhat of this like adhesive that you would see behind like stickers and stuff. So if anyone's going to need some advice on trying to remove like sticker adhesive, this is probably the best way to do it. Alrighty guys, so I've gone ahead and used that 3M rubber eraser wheel. I didn't want to really bother and bore you with a huge long time lapse, but anyways, it's removed an awesome amount of this adhesive, of like clear coat kind of peeling right here, and that's just because I went in with a Scotch pad, and there's a lot of nicks and dings here, but we're going to go ahead and clean all that up. I am going to repair a lot of this rust here with some body filler and just clean this whole thing up. We're going to probably wash this and just kind of paint all of this. It's not going to be pretty, but I plan on painting the entire truck, so please stay tuned for that whole segment of me probably repainting this whole entire truck. I'm going to try to remove as much as rust as possible and just kind of make this thing a little bit more roadworthy. In the next segment too, I'm going to try to remove this blister and this disgusting thing. I also really hope that you guys can hear me well. Like, my whole neighborhood is just super active right now. Everyone's just got their landscaping crew out right now, and there's a woodpecker above me. But anyways, I'm going to take a quick break to eat, and we're going to get right back into it. Alrighty everyone, I went ahead and removed both the panels now. I also removed some of that like other adhesive that was behind on top of that thicky foam 3M adhesive. I also removed these two panels that are basically like this, that go around the whole entire truck, and those were held on by the same type of adhesive in two different strips, so I just removed it on both sides. And then I also used the 3M wheel to kind of get rid of that. Now look at that, that looks so good. Like, that came off pretty good. Now granted, like, my paint is, I don't know, 23 years old, and this truck is pretty old, and it's got a lot of bad stuff and imperfections everywhere. Like, there's a bunch of rock chips and just scratches here. Now granted, if you're following this video to do it on your own car, you're probably going to want to get like a plastic scraper. I'm just using a metal scraper to kind of just get behind everything and just get behind, like, even these panels. I just used a metal paint scraper to kind of just get behind here, and I literally just like pulled the whole thing off. I pulled it off on both sides. I'm not worried about the bed so much, and I'm not going to show you guys too much about the bed because I have a surprise for you guys that we're going to have in probably a future episode. But as far as this goes, this is like where we're at, and it's looking really, really good. Now I am out of flap discs and sandpaper, so I'm going to run to the store really quick, and we're going to go ahead and grab some flap discs, and we're going to go ahead and grab some sandpaper, and we're going to get right back to it. Alright guys, I just got back from the store, and as you can see, I picked up an 80 grit flap disc, and then I have some sandpaper here that I'm going to use to sand down the door. I'm going to use an angle grinder to just kind of get a majority of the rust out with the angle grinder, and you can do this too. And then we're going to use a couple sandpapers here to kind of just smooth everything out. Alrighty everyone, I already went ahead and used the angle grinder, which, I mean, anyone could pick this up. I picked this up at Harbor Freight from, I don't know, it was like 20 bucks or maybe even less, and one of their lot sales were going out of business for the 18th time sale. So I picked up one of those a while back, and anyone can do this too. So I just had an angle grinder, went to Wally World and picked up an 80 grit sandpaper. And yeah, so all of those pits we're gonna fill in. I'm gonna try to kind of get all this out so that you can see what it's gonna be like. And I don't know, just to kind of make it over the winter and stuff like that and seal it from rust. But the rust was mainly collecting because of that panel that we had on here. So you can see all the pitting. We're gonna go ahead and fill that in. We're gonna clean up this whole panel and then clean all that dust. And then we're gonna go ahead and fill it and sand it some more. Alrighty everyone, so I've applied Bondo so far to the door. Now I'm saving this door with given all the amount of rust on my vehicle. This door is actually really good. I might have to replace the door on the other side, but I think I'm going to try to save it, and that should be for a future video where you're going to be able to see me, and you can do this too on your own vehicle, where you're going to be able to patch up like big holes where there's rust on your door. So far, check this out. So I went ahead and added some Bondo. I can't see anything and it's kind of cold. I think it's maybe around I don't know, 35 or 40 degrees freedom degrees. But it is cold, so the Bondo's gonna need some more time to kind of set and cure. So all of those rust areas I just sort of filled with Bondo. I filled with this just body filler, and because there is so much pitting, so we're going to try to smooth this out as much as possible. Basically all I do is I make like a fist size in diameter amount of that stuff, and then I use the cream hardener right here, and I go just like kind of a line across, and then I mix it up. So I just kind of gather it all up and spread it out and gather it all up, and then we're good to go. So all right, I'm gonna have to catch you in the morning because it is so dark. Alrighty everyone, I let this thing cure for about, as long as it says up to like 30 minutes, so it's already been like a day. And I got my supplies for sanding, so I'm gonna start sanding with about 180 grit right here. I'm using a sponge to do that because I cannot find my sanding block for whatever reason. And then I'm gonna work my way up in grits, and then we're gonna go ahead and sand this thing down and prime it and paint it really quick here. Alrighty everyone, so I went ahead and sanded everything down with 180 grit after bondoing. So if you're at this part in the video and you stayed around this long, I'm greatly appreciate it. But I also want to mention there's a few things that I've already I'm learning because it's a learning experience with you and me. So a few things. Well, one, I noticed I put quite a bit of Bondo on, so you don't really have to put that much Bondo on as I did, but I thought that I had so much cavitation, and you can kind of see right in there and a little bit right there even still, that there was so much cavitation and there was still so much pock marks when it was so rusty that I thought there was gonna need to be Bondo there. You could add icing, you can do glazing putty, that'll be okay. Now, another thing I noticed is that I'm on bare metal and I added some Bondo. Now that's kind of a mistake, but that's okay. We're gonna see if we can kind of, make it by with something else, and this can work for you too. But the thing is when you're putting Bondo on just straight metal, this is porous material and moisture can collect behind paint and any other sort of sealer or anything you put over the Bondo, because like I said, it's porous and it can actually just recause the rust. So what you kind of want to do is actually add basically an epoxy primer, or you can use a self-etching primer. But I've actually learned and kind of was reading that when you add a self-etching primer to Bondo, that it might react. So you kind of have to be mindful of that too if you're doing this yourself. So I heard that epoxy and was reading that epoxy is actually a good way to go, and it might not react to the Bondo. So I'm gonna go ahead and just sort of wipe down this side of the truck a little bit more, and I'm gonna mask it off, and I'm gonna prime kind of what's already on there, because I'm gonna add quite a bit of paint on this side. And like I've said before, we're gonna paint pretty much a whole good chunk of this whole truck. I mean, you can see like my whole hood is super rusty, so in a future video we're gonna just take care of everything. So stay tuned for all that, but right now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get to the priming. Alrighty, I went ahead and added some of the primer that I was kind of showing you guys beforehand, because I still did have a lot of exposed metal. I also used about 320 grit sandpaper to just sort of smooth things out, and I primed over most of the metal, and I tried to sand down some of the Bondo some more just so I can get another smooth surface. Now there's still some pitting right in here and like right in there, and I think I accidentally nicked the Bondo somewhere in there, so I'm gonna go ahead and use some of the spot putty that I have right here. So I'm just gonna use some glazing putty, and then you can just use one of the Bondo putty spreaders, and I essentially just use this Rust-Oleum 2K epoxy primer, so it won't really ruin any of the Bondo. There was also a little bit of a run right there, so I'm gonna probably sand that down a little bit and maybe do another couple more coats, and then I'm gonna paint it. Okay guys, I added all 3 coats of that primer. It went on great. Granted, it's rattle can spray. If you wanted to have a really good primer base, of course you would probably use compressed air and a pretty cheap spray gun. I added all 3 coats. I did some spot putty, and it went on great. Now the thing is it's just so cold outside that it's just going to need a lot more time to cure. So I'm going to have to let this sit and bake in the sun for a little bit, and we're going to sand it down. I'm going to kind of feather it out and smooth it out with about probably a 600 grit sandpaper, maybe a little bit more, and then I'm going to paint it as just like a good base coat. Granted, we're painting the whole truck like I said, So this is just a start, and I masked everything off that I didn't want to have painted, but I'm gonna have to scuff this whole entire door, and I'm gonna repaint it anyways. But so far this is a really great start. Now everyone can do this. You can start off with this and get great results, and even if you're just trying to paint something up and try to make it through the winter, this would be a great start. So and this is where we're at right now. Okay everyone, that's gonna have to conclude today's video. It just got dark on me and it's so cold that I'm just gonna need a little bit more time for this paint to cure and for all the spot putty to kind of set in, and it's gonna have to bake in the sun a little bit before I go ahead and sand it. I definitely have a lot more that needs to be done to this truck and a lot more rust that needs to be repaired. There's a lot of cool things that are coming your way if you just go ahead and stick around. Don't forget to click on your post notifications if you don't want to miss out on anything. And if you really liked this video, don't forget to subscribe and like if you learned something. And I'm gonna have to catch you guys another time.